Good evening. My name is Rabbi Andrew Schultz. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Alliance for Jewish Affiliated Cemeteries. Thank you everyone for tuning in for our 4th annual celebration of support, honoring two very special individuals, Dr. Ronnie Herskovitz and Mike Wasserman. Before I talk about our honorees and share other remarks with you, I feel an obligation to discuss the state of Israel and the hostages being held, as well as the soldiers who are standing guard over our homeland. As you can see on my lapel, I'm wearing the blue ribbon to show my solidarity and to show KJAK's solidarity with those who are in captivity and our soldiers. Let me begin by reading a prayer, a tefillah, for those most in need of this. Misha Berach, may he who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Joseph, Moses, and Aaron, David and Solomon, please bless, protect, and guard the members of Israel's defense forces, missing in action or held captive, and other captives among our brethren, the whole house of Israel who are in distress or captivity, as we, the members of this holy group and holy community, pray on their behalf. May God, blessed be He, have compassion on them and bring them out from the darkness and the shadow of death. May God break their bonds, deliver them from their distress, and bring them quickly back to their families' embrace. On a daily basis, KJAK continues to field calls from concerned community members. These community members represent synagogue and organizational leadership who are concerned about the future preservation of their cemeteries. To me, this really underscores the awareness that community members now have for Jewish cemeteries. It's all come full circle, and people appreciate the concept of centralized community management of their Jewish cemeteries. When I think of Mike and Ronnie, I think to one of the prayers that we say on Shabbat, and we say, V'chol mi sheoskim b'tzarchei tzibor be'emunah. Each week we recognize those who give to the community faithfully and make the most impact. Ronnie and I go back nearly 14 years, a true stalwart of KJAK. We spent countless hours and days at the cemetery trying to make a difference in the condition of the cemetery. Ronnie was a very popular leader among our volunteers, and thanks to Ronnie, many of those individuals whom he encountered are still active in KJAK today. I express tremendous hakarat hatov to Ronnie and Mike Wasserman, who has been an essential partner of KJAK over the last 5 years. His passion for Jewish cemeteries knows no bounds. We established a partnership, thanks to Mike, with the Greater Middlesex Jewish Cemetery Management Corporation. Mike has worked tirelessly for KJAK, helping us to expand our footprint in New Jersey and beyond. Today, KJAK is larger and more successful and more accessible than ever before. Over the last few years, we've acquired and assumed responsibility for nearly 4,000 graves across 8 cemeteries. And today, we are in the process of expanding that to 2 to 3 additional cemeteries. And by the time we get to next year's event, I look forward to reporting on this progress. As we prepare to enter the program for this evening, I'd like to thank everyone again for tuning in. And now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you the renowned Rabbi Jacob J. Schacter, who, just like KJAK, shares a commitment to ensuring no memory is ever forgotten.
Good evening to all of you who are gathered here at this extremely very important and special event, celebrating the amazing work of KJAK, the Community Alliance for Jewish Affiliated Cemeteries. What a chesed this organization does in working very, very hard to preserve cemeteries in all different kinds of disrepair, whether physical or financial, and to ensure that there should be no Jewish cemetery, no Jewish memory that is forgotten. The level of kavod hameis and chesed shel emes is extraordinary. I'm very happy to participate this way, to pay particular homage and honor to Dr. Mike Wasserman, with whom I davened together in Congregation Rinat Yisrael, and also to acknowledge the work of Dr. Ronnie Herskovitz, who is participating as an honoree this evening. None of this could happen without the work of Rabbi Andrew Schultz, who's the executive director of KJAK, and all of us express incredible akar satov to him, and to Mike, and to Ronnie, and to all of those who are so deeply involved in this majorly important chesed, on behalf of those who can no longer do any chesed for themselves. The Mishnah tells us at the beginning of Masaches Peah, Elu Devarim She'ein Lahem Shir. There are a number of things that have no limit, and one of them is Gemilus Chasadim. And the Rambam in his commentary in the Parashah Mishnayos on that Mishnah points out, Ugemilas Chasadim, Hu Shem Poel Al Shnei Inyanim Min HaMitzvos. There are actually two kinds of Gemilus Chasadim. One is Gemilus Chasadim Bimamono, and the other is Gemilus Chasadim Begufo. And when the Mishnah says, Elu Devarim She'ein Lohem Shir, that there's no limit, we're not referring to Gemilus Chasadim Shebimamono. There is a shir, there is a limit, there's a chomesh. We have to give away as much as we can, but up to a fifth. When the Mishnah says, Elu Devarim She'ein Lohem Shir Gemilus Chasadim, it's Chesed Shebeguf. And the Rambam points out the same thing at the beginning of the 14th chapter in Hilchos Avel. Talks about a whole list here in Perek Yud Dalid, Halacha Aleph, a whole list of Gemilus Chasadim activities. Ve'elu hein Gemilus Chasadim shebegufo she'ein lohem shir. What brings us here this evening is both Gemilus Chasadim bimamono. We need to raise money for this incredibly important organization. Things just don't happen on their own. There are significant financial challenges, and I hope that everyone gathered this evening and everyone who will see this recording and be part of this tremendous tribute will see how important it is to contribute lamaisa, mamon, to this incredibly important organization. And in particular, also, in addition, Gemilas Chasadim Shebeguf, and that is the great gadlus of Mike, my beloved friend Mike, and also Ronnie, who do Gemilas Chasadim Shebeguf, physically working tirelessly hard. The work that Rabbi Schultz does, Gemilas Chasadim Shebeguf, to make sure that these cemeteries are properly taken care of. And we very much appreciate the work that they do, and we laud their incredible accomplishments here this evening. I have a particular connection to this work because a number of years ago I co-founded an organization called Operation Benjamin, which does something similar. And we have discovered that in American military cemeteries overseas, there are 27 American military cemeteries in Europe and in the Far East. There are a number of Jewish soldiers who were killed during World War II and World War I who are buried under crosses. But through the rigors of war, after having been buried here and then moved there and then finally placed in their resting place where they remain for all eternity, mistakes were made, and it is our goal to try to change that. And we've been working with the American Battle Monuments Commission, known as the ABMC, to make those changes. To date, Baruch Hashem, in Europe and in the Far East, we have made close to 30 marker changes. Each one is a massive Yom Tiv. Each one is a massive chesed. We have finally brought the soldier back under the bosom of his ancestral faith in a way that is lechavod u'lesefares for the soldier, for the surviving members of that soldier's family, and for the Jewish people. This is what binds us. This is what unites us. I have a particular hakaras hatov, as I do for so many things, to my late father, Rabbi Schacter, who served in the military in World War II. He was a chaplain in the American Army, the first chaplain to enter into concentration camps at the end of the war, April 11, 1945. He was part of the liberation of the Buchenwald concentration camp, and he impressed upon me the importance of caring for soldiers. These are people who give and gave so much of themselves for freedom and for democracy, and they deserve to be treated with amazing respect. And so tonight is a night for chesed. Tonight is a night for chesed shel emes. Tonight is a night for chesed, gemilos chasadim shebemamon, and gemilas chasadim shebeguf. We care about those who can't care for themselves, and we express such tremendous hakaras hatov to Mike, to Rani, to Rabbi Schultz, to everyone who's involved in this incredibly important KJAK organization. Kadosh Baruch Hu should continue to give you schar, to give you reward. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishalem schorcham, to be able to be strong and healthy and well, and to keep the focus on doing activities on behalf of people who can't do these activities for themselves, to do it in a way that brings luster and glory and meaning and memory and eternity to all of those who need our help. Thank you so much for coming this evening, and I wish you all much, tremendous, continued success.
Well, I was first involved in Jewish cemeteries about 10 to 12 years ago when a member of the congregation, about 90 years old, asked if I could help him with his work as chair of the cemetery committee. And that's how I first got involved in Jewish cemetery work. One of the first questions I asked him was, is the synagogue setting aside enough money to make sure the cemetery will be, maintained even after all the graves are sold? And he said, I hope so. I thought that was very strange. It doesn't seem like a sound financial plan. And as I pursued things further, I looked for advice from other people doing cemetery work in nearby synagogues and burial societies. And I found out that each of them also was doing their best, but in a totally isolated way. There were tremendous silos, having no relationship even to cemeteries located adjacent to theirs. Everybody was doing their own thing. Even to the extent that in numerous instances, at least 3 that come to mind, there were a group of adjacent Jewish cemeteries where the trustees of one had no idea who the landscaper was for the neighboring cemetery. And so this really bothered me. I was trying to broaden my experience and learn from the benefit of others, but everybody was really doing their own thing. So I got involved in an organization called Greater Middlesex Jewish Cemetery Organization, concerned with central New Jersey cemeteries. I inventoried, found out that there were 30 cemeteries, 25 of which were totally standalone pieces of land having nothing to do with any larger Jewish cemetery organizations. And they all were isolated and had no breadth of experience, were doing the best that they could come up with. Oftentimes they would have the entire investments, however meager they may be, in certificates of deposit, which is a very inappropriate vehicle for the entirety of an investment that's supposed to last through eternity. I was very concerned. And through my contacts reaching out further and further, KJAK and I met up with each other, and I was so relieved to learn that here was an organization that had great breadth of experience through numerous cemeteries throughout the New York metropolitan area, knew what were the practices that did work, what didn't work, had contacts with vendors. It was really a godsend to me to help give me guidance in what best practices are in the handful of cemeteries for which I had now become responsible. And ever since that day, I've been so appreciative of the guidance and support, technical and moral support, and just sound basic wisdom that I've gotten from KJAK. We're here in Woodbridge, New Jersey, at the site of a pair of Jewish cemeteries established in the early 20th century, based on the Jewish community at that time thriving in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. There's the Orthodox congregation Beth Israel, which was established in 1905, its cemetery here in Woodbridge, just outside of Perth Amboy, and adjacent to it, the Workman's Circle Branch 95 Cemetery from 1922, a secular labor organization that threw itself in with the cemetery at the end of the 20th century. It threw itself in with the Orthodox Synagogue's cemetery, and then that synagogue also dissolved, leaving a pair of Jewish cemeteries without any owner. So local Jewish community took it over. Jewish Federation helped bring that all to be, and now we'll see the two cemeteries together. The general condition is good, the landscaping is well maintained, but since it is over 100 years old, certainly stones have leaned over the course of the year. A couple of them are down entirely, several of them are leaning dangerously, and they're not going to correct themselves. They need help, and the people who were in that community and are buried here contributed mightily to central New Jersey, but can't speak for themselves any longer. Among the 24 stones which need to be fixed because they're leaning badly, this is the worst case. It's fallen over entirely, and our plans are to have this restored in the coming months, along with all the others. We're in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, which had a very vibrant Jewish community in the 19th century through the mid and latter part of the 20th century. Each of the many synagogues and many fraternal organizations had their own cemetery, including the independent Jewish Burial Society created in 1932 called Wasserman. It buried a few people in the mid-1930s, but then unfortunately that organization dissolved. And it was never maintained, so that today we have a totally overgrown and unrecognizable lot of land. The original couple of people who were buried, their graves can no longer be located. And this is precisely the example that we're trying to avoid in the other cemeteries for which we have stepped forward and taken responsibility, and which KJAK has done enormous work in restoring and preserving.
I'm very proud to say that tonight's honoree, Michael Wasserman, is my father. I'd like to share a brief perspective from our family about the work our father has been doing with KJAK and other organizations over the past decade, serving Jewish communal life and preserving Jewish values after life. It's quite fitting that our father is being awarded a Keter Shem Tov by KJAK. Pirkei Avot 4:13 quotes, Rabbi Shimon said, there are three crowns, the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But the crown of a good name supersedes them all. Keter Shem Tov ole al gabehen. Our family is immensely proud of the work my father has been doing and of KJAK bestowing him with the Keter Shem Tov award, the crown of a good name, evincing an impeccable reputation. But those who know our father best know that being honored for his efforts is the last thing on his mind. He is entirely focused on bringing about the best results for the Jewish community and beyond, without any thought of receiving credit for it. Fittingly, the other three crowns mentioned in Pirkei Avot are also exemplified by the ethics of our father. Keter Torah, he always shares a Dvar Torah at any family gathering and meals. Keter Kahuna, he has been faithfully serving the Jewish community for over 60 years. And Keter Malchut, he personifies being a true leader, jumping in to restore and bolster Jewish cemeteries when he noticed the need. But finally, we know that my father's true crowning achievement is having inspired all his children, grandchildren, and extended family to try their very best to follow in his and my mother's footsteps, to honor those who came before us, deal respectfully and ethically with those around us, and focus our energies on making the world a better place for those who come after us. We love you, Abba, Grandpa Mike, and are so proud of all your work with KJAK and beyond. Mazel tov.
And to all friends and family who are watching, I want to thank you so much. KJAK is a wonderful organization that cares for those who can't care for themselves, who bring dignity not only to those who have gone before, but to reaffirm the notion that life is important and valuable and beautiful and is worth preserving, and that, God forbid, we shouldn't allow here in the midst of the most affluent Jewish community the world has ever known to allow cemeteries to be neglected, but rather to be maintained in a dignified manner.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight. As board president of KJAK, I applaud all of you who have joined with us on our important mission for the Jewish community. You have enabled us to perform this sacred work, and you have done so even as we have all been providing extraordinary support to our brothers and sisters in Israel who are still under attack. May it conclude quickly and successfully. As you know, KJAK believes that no Jewish cemetery should be left behind. Even though synagogues close, burial society trustees retire, and demographic shifts occur. We'll continue to be there to manage and direct operations and finances to ensure that every Jewish cemetery is maintained in a safe, secure, and respectful manner. And we will continue to advise and consult with legislators, government agencies, and community groups on important cemetery matters. But we could not do this without our active board and our advisors, including Rabbi Elchanan Zon, a leading posek on end-of-life matters, and Rabbi Joseph Potasnik, the Executive Vice President of the New York Board of Rabbis and a recognized leader in the New York Jewish community. We also thank our continuing sponsors, UJA, the New York Board of Rabbis, Plaza Funeral Home, and all of you here tonight. And a special thanks to Congregation Poale Zedek, who have provided KJAK with a very generous grant. So, I again thank you all for supporting KJAK and joining us tonight to honor two very special individuals, Ronnie Herskovitz and Michael Wasserman. They have both given a great deal to the Jewish community, and we are very proud to honor them tonight. Ronnie Herskovitz is a longtime member of KJAK and the first leader of our volunteer activities to restore distressed cemeteries. And Ronnie is not just a leader, he is a doer in every sense of the word. Clipper and chainsaw in hand, Ronnie personally worked alongside hundreds of volunteers and even worked alone on Sundays in lonely, deserted cemeteries. And it was on one of those Sundays at an overgrown cemetery in Queens that I first met him. On that day, he helped to locate the graves of my great-grandparents, and then introduced me to Rabbi Andrew Schultz, who arranged for a fallen monument to be raised and the area cleaned. Ronnie is the reason that I became involved with KJAK. Michael Wasserman, a longtime leader in the Jewish community of Central New Jersey, who has spent many years directing the efforts of the Greater Middlesex Jewish Cemetery Management Corporation. And at the national level, an active member of the Jewish Cemetery Association of North America. Mike lives and breathes cemetery. He is partnering with us to improve the condition of cemeteries currently under management and to bring even more under the KJAK umbrella. We at KJAK and the Jewish community are incredibly proud of Ronnie and Mike. They are shining examples of those who go above and beyond to care for the final resting places of those who have gone before us, performing the mitzvah of kavod hames, a kindness that can never be repaid. May Hashem continue to bless them with good health and allow them to continue this sacred work for many years to come.
So, Commander, thank you so much for joining us from the land of Israel. It's really an honor to meet you and to talk with you. So, I just want to begin by asking you to introduce yourself and the work of ZAKA, and of course, the response to the tragedies of October 7th.
Okay, thank you for having us. My name is Simcha Greinimin. I'm 47 years old, father of 5, grandfather of 3, and a carpenter on a daily basis, a volunteer in ZAKA International for 32 years. ZAKA is Chesed Shelemis. That's one of the things that majorly ZAKA deals with around the world, international. It doesn't make difference which culture the people are. It doesn't make difference which culture the people that we're dealing with. We go around the world. So if we were asked to come to a Muslim country after earthquakes, or a Christian country after 9/11, different events that we come to help to bring people that were deceased in not regular ways. Basically, different casualties like earthquakes, car accidents, terror attacks, different heart situations. October 7th, we were called into the scenes right at the beginning, like around 2 o'clock in the afternoon already. I personally got called in. As an MT, I came to help, and I also came to collect bodies and parts of bodies. That's already after understanding what we're dealing with and what we see in the scenes. And there's a big union of Chesed Shalem is collecting every drop of blood, making sure that nothing is left behind, to be able to bury those parts and everything else. It's not only Chesed Shalem with the Mason, it's also Chesed with the Chaim. Because when you do it in a proper way, collecting everything, making sure that everything comes to burial, respecting the Niftarim by not taking any pictures, and no one sees what they went through, you're respecting them in that way, and bringing the understanding what the family is going through, knowing if the people were captured, or they're killed, or they don't know where they are. That's the biggest mitzvah of bringing these niftarim as fast as they could to be able to identify them. That's what helps the families to continue living their lives by knowing what happened to their father, mother, children, whoever it is. And we went through all the highways, collecting hundreds of bodies on the highways, people that were killed in different situations, different ways that you cannot believe and cannot really describe by seeing these things. As I said, I'm 32 years a volunteer in ZAKA, so I saw many buses that blew up, cars that were burned, terror attacks on the hotels and the restaurants. I dealt with different kinds of situations of bodies during these years. But over here, we're talking about the amount of people, the amount of bodies that we dealt with. This is something that was hard, very hard to understand.
Really incredible work that you do. I've learned about ZAKA over the years, but just to hear from you and to really hear about your experience is just jaw-dropping. It's really incredible. and you spoke about Chesed Shel Emet. I'd like to say, and I'd like to describe that our organization, the Community Alliance for Jewish Cemeteries, our mission is to preserve Jewish cemeteries. Our mission is to create community responsibility for Jewish cemeteries. And so we share that commitment with you. But your work on the ground is really unique from any other organization that does this. And obviously you work in conjunction with the Chevra Kadisha and ensuring that Metim are brought to proper burial. So when October 7th hit, how did ZAKA mobilize, and what was your role as it relates to ZAKA?
Basically, we were called in from the police, as usual, into hard scenes. The police asks us to be involved, to come to collect the bodies and whatever remains there are on different scenes. But over here, when we got to the scenes, we already understood what we're dealing with. So on daily basis, we're under the police command. But over here, we're talking about so many bodies, the police couldn't really deal with the situation. So the army took over, but the army couldn't take over because they didn't understand how to start and how to deal with it at all. And over here, we had so many casualties and so many people in so many different places in different situations. So we had a lot of information to collect from every scene to be able to identify or to try to bring as much evidence and information for the police afterwards to be able to discover who these people are or who the bodies are. So that was our main goal to do. And after collecting for 2.5 weeks the bodies and parts of bodies, the government gave me the opportunity to be the one that's in charge, to go around all the kibbutzim, from Sderot until Kisufim, all the way down to Kisufim, every kibbutz, one by one, house by house, every scene. I was in charge to make sure that nothing is left in the houses, nothing left any fields, and to sign on every house to make sure that everything was clean. Houses that went through grenades, families that were killed in horrific situations. It took us 16 to 18 hours to clean a room, one room of that was hit with a few grenades. And we have to make sure that we collect every drop of blood to make sure that it's like you're collecting every drop of ash of a Sefer Torah and you bring it to burial. So that's how we looked at the scenes. Every scene, we understood that every drop has to be collected. 1,750 cars. Those 350 cars were burned. It was something that you cannot imagine. The amount of bodies and houses to clean and cars to clean and to go and collect everything, and then opening gigantic graveyards and digging them out and making sure that everything goes in mechubed was a lot of responsibility. But Baruch Hashem, we had this close to be there for Klal Yisrael and to be the one to be the shlichim to do it the right way. I'm not talking about only the bodies that we collected, 1,400 bodies of Jews, but we collected another 1,500 bodies of terrorists. Talking about close to 3,000 bodies. That's something that you cannot imagine. It's not getting easier. Up north, every second, every day, we're having hundreds of attacks on Israel. We're having drones flying into the country and blowing up. We have missiles all the time flying over from Lebanon, and we don't know what's going to happen. And we still have 134 hostages and hundreds of soldiers still in Gaza fighting. And we have to have a lot of tefillos and a lot of chizuk from Am Yisrael.
Look at the media and they see the deaths of Palestinians. Many of us believe that the stories coming out of the media are very distorted. And it's painful for us. It's painful for us to see in the greatest institutions of higher learning, particularly Harvard University, when there are those driving around and there are people tearing down the pictures of the hostages. So we're fighting on the front lines against the propaganda. And I will tell you, in the past, when we do our annual event, we've brought on different speakers who have shed perspective on Chesed Shel Emet, Kavod HaMetz, but we felt an obligation this year to tie in everything happening in Israel. And we're really zocha, we're really privileged, and we merit your contributions. It's important that people throughout the Jewish community have an awareness and hearing firsthand from a first responder like you.
But going and saying it did not happen, it's like saying, like denying after 50 years the Holocaust. It took 50 years to deny the Holocaust. It took 50 seconds to deny what happened in October 7. And this is where we stand up and we say, never again. Whatever happened in the Holocaust, we know all these Holocaust survivors, they had a number on their arm. We don't have a number on our arm. We have a number on my heart, our eyes. These are the things that we dealt hundreds of bodies of men, women, elderly, people that got killed, butchered in different situations. I don't like going down to details, but what they went through is only our eyes, only our hands. These are the things that could come, and we are the ones are standing and testifying what we dealt with and what we saw and what we dealt with. And we're not the only ones. Those, I can't call them monsters. Those monsters that had the GoPro cameras on them, when they did whatever they did, they called their parents and said they were proud from them, proud what they did, killing 10 or 8 people and calling their parents on some civilians' phone, saying that they killed, and the parents say to them, "Wow, we would love to be there, seeing you do that," giving them pride for what they did. This is what we are dealing here in Israel. Whoever comes and complains against Israel should stop the Hamas. Look what's going on in Gaza. All that money could have been invested into schools, into teaching them really, getting them into high tech, getting them to be a normal nation. And look who got killed. People that gave them all that support, tried to help them, give them work, take them to hospitals in Israel. They're the ones that were giving them the support. At the end of the day, what happened? They came and they killed them all. And now, by understanding, doing all this Chesed Shel Emes, we as ZAKA members, ZAKA stands for Zihui Korbanot Ason, identifying bodies in hard situations. That was until Simchas Torah. But from Simchas Torah, we're the ones united Am Yisrael. Ze Kiruv Achim. We're the ones that connect between all the brothers and sisters, the families from the kibbutzim, people that were in the Nova festival that didn't have any connection to Yiddishkeit. The highest of understanding of people that were killed because they were Jews. They come to the highest level of Kedusha. And this is what we have to understand. And by doing the Chesed Shel Emes, by respecting them, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us koach to continue doing what we're doing, because this is only a wake-up call for Am Yisrael.
Amazing, amazing. As we wrap up, just a couple of points that I want to make. I'm glad that you cited this week's Parsha, Kitisa. We talk about the census that was taken of Bnei Yisrael, and each individual was responsible for machatzit hashekel, giving a half shekel, giving it in 2 versions. And what we learned from that, among other things, is that every Jew was created equal. No life is more precious than another. We have Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Bazeh, that all Israel is responsible for one another. And whether or not somebody is Shomer Shabbat, whether somebody's secular, it doesn't matter. You are out there
Exactly.
to respond to the catastrophe, ultimately creating one of the greatest Kiddush Hashem that one can do. And my very last question for you, have you encountered Palestinians who have expressed gratitude, who have expressed their condolences about everything that's happened?
For sure. There are, for sure, Palestinians that understand that they're living under terror attacks in their own communities, in their own places, in Gaza itself. They know exactly what's going on. And they know that without the terror attacks, without Hamas, without Hezbollah being involved, they will be able to continue living a normal life. But I don't see any Arab country opening their doors for the Palestinians and trying to help them to leave Gaza and to come live in their communities anywhere. Not Egypt, not Syria, not Dubai or other countries around the world, Muslim countries, opening their doors to help them. The only one thing that they have to do is to complain against Israel attacks and Israel attacks. If they would have missiles flying over to their countries on daily basis, they wouldn't stop. They wouldn't let them do whatever they did for so many years, killing people until today. Today we had two people we had a ZAKA volunteer got killed today, a few hours ago. And I don't see any resolution of without having all these people that were taken captured coming back home alive or not alive, whatever the situation is. But we have to make sure that we know where they are and what happens with them as soon as possible. And we cannot stop the attack against Hamas. We cannot stop the attack against Hezbollah. We have to finish the terror totally.
Lo tishkach, may we never forget. In a few weeks, when we read about Amalek, and we end that part of the parsha with Lo tishkach, may we never forget. May you be strong. May you be mechazek and strength, and your leadership is essential to all of this. I am so grateful for everything that you are doing and ZAKA is doing, and may Hashem, the Shomer Yisrael, the protector of Israel, continue to protect you and all people, all Jewish people, and as well as the Palestinians who are suffering under the rule of Hamas. One of the greatest slogans I've seen published recently is free Gaza from Hamas. I thank you so much for taking your time, and I look forward personally to being in touch with you and supporting your sacred efforts.
Thank you, and we appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronnie Hershkowitz. I live in Jamaica Estates and work in Deer Park, Long Island. While I was told by the Lords of KJAK that a purpose of tonight's event is to honor me, my reason for being at this event is solely to honor KJAK and to show how the organization has impacted my life. So how did my connection with KJAK begin?
Hi, my name is Steve Hershkowitz. Ronnie Hershkowitz's older brother, and I'm here because I helped start the cleanup of Bayside Cemetery, and basically did it pre-KJAK. We hopefully initiated the KJAK getting together and coming together to support Jewish cemeteries in New York City. I attended a community safety meeting in Queens that featured Curtis Sliwa of Guardian Angels as a speaker, and he highlighted the horrible conditions that certain Jewish cemeteries were in throughout the city of New York. So I happened to be attending this thing with a friend of mine from, we were both founding members of a Jewish motorcycle group, the Chai Riders, and because the Chai Riders were into doing positive things for the Jewish community, we thought that would be a great project to get involved with. So I got things together. We had members of the Chai Riders come. My brother, who is definitely not a motorcycle guy, was involved as well, and that was the onset of what eventually became KJAK.
I asked my brother Steve at the end of work that day, where do we go from here? As it was woefully obvious that the incomplete effort to clean the cemetery would be erased by nature in mere weeks. The realization that we had no long-term plan prompted the formation of a loosely connected, unnamed volunteer organization. We were able to galvanize community participation. Various shuls and many devoted individuals came to assist on Sundays. School buses brought in yeshiva students on weekdays. Overgrown plants were cut away from headstones and footstones. Railings throughout the cemetery were repainted. And yes, I did use a chainsaw to cut down trees that were not excessively large. During the first few months of our volunteer work, we were told that lo and behold, there was another group involved in cleaning up Bayside Cemetery. I was given the contact number of Gary Katz, president of KJAK, and we agreed to join forces under the KJAK brand. So was I part of the KJAK volunteer group that helped clean up various Jewish cemeteries? Yes. Every minute of cemetery cleanup time imbued me with the feeling of pride that I was helping some Jewish family reconnect with their currently enforested loved ones. I know the term chesed shel emet, kindness of truth, generally is used to refer to the unrequitable kindness performed for the deceased. But is that chesed simply for the dead? Is it not also for the living descendants and friends after years or decades have passed who want to visit and daven and pour their hearts out on current matters, both good and bad, to a former comforter who could no longer respond? That burial ground should be accessible, safe, clean, and laden with respect. As a community, do we want our family members to be remembered in the same beautiful manner as they were singularly eulogized at their funerals, or as abandoned relics whose resting sites we can no longer spare the effort and cost to maintain? Whether it is KJAK or another chesed, are we willing to put our hearts and bodies into a cause which we value? It is the best guarantee of increasing our happiness in our own lives. And now for some apologies. To all volunteers afflicted with poison ivy as recompense for their good deeds, I am sorry. I hope you are doing better by now. To the woman who said to me during one of our first cleanups at Bayside Cemetery, "You're doing a nice job, but can you please do something about the bugs?" I'm sorry. I tried and I failed. To my beloved wife, Beth, and dear children, Penina, Miriam, Becky, Yael, and Judah, and our 4 choice sons-in-law, thanks for all coming down for some cleanups, and my apologies for me always responding to your calls by saying, "Yeah, I'm just finishing up at the cemetery. I should be home soon." Congratulations to Mike Wasserman on being a new power for KJAK and the board for continuing to move the organization forward. The Jewish community needs you, and God bless you, KJAK, for enriching my life.